Call to order at 6:06. Thanks everyone for your patience getting the tech up and running. So Liz will be our minute taker and Erin will be our timekeeper. I don't see any public in attendance, so I'm going to move us right along. So we need a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
And a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor of approving the agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, great. So we are in need of executive sessions for two different reasons this evening. We're allotting about 20 minutes for these. I think they'll be fairly quick. We need to first determine that premature general public knowledge would put the board at a substantial disadvantage for the executive session under T1 BSA section 313A1E, which is pending probable civil litigation. So if we could start first with that motion, that would be great.
So moved.
So Erin moves that there's a need to go into executive session because otherwise there would be premature general public knowledge that would put the board at a disadvantage. A second?
I'll second.
Bailey? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Now we need to,
Can I just ask who made those motions? I'm sorry. It's hard to tell through the video. I can't, and I'm sorry I'm not there in person. So, but if you could just say the names of the people making the motions, that would be helpful.
absolutely. So Erin Jipper
Thank you.
made the motion and then Bailey seconded.
Thank you so much.
We need to move separately for the other two, or for each executive session.
No, I think one motion to go into executive session, those
For
are
both.
the topics we're talking about, and
Okay.
knowing that one of those topics does require premature, that the determination about premature public knowledge is made,
Okay.
covers us.
Okay, so we need a motion that allows us to go into executive session for Title I BSA 313A7, which is academic records for suspension discipline of students, and Title I BSA 313A1E pending probable civil litigation.
Do we need to invite anybody?
I think
Yes.
that's me.
Patrick will be joining us.
So moved.
Okay, so Steve Rooney made the motion and a second,
Second.
and Brad seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so are we,
I think we can do, what we did before. I'll create a breakout room, invite the board
Okay.
members that are online, and then I'll bring my laptop into the other room.
great.
Then I'll come back here.
Okay, so we'll see you shortly, and we're going in at 6:10. We are back. So, now that we're back, we need a motion to approve the tuition waivers for Starksboro and New Haven students.
So moved.
Kathy's made the motion, and can we have a second?
Second.
And Justin seconded. Is that your first time?
Nice.
Nice job. Hey, that's exciting. All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any abstentions? Okay. All right, so now we're going to shift into the bulk of our time together. And the plan is that I'm always open to other folks who think we can do this in a different way. But the plan is to get into your group according to the committee that you would like to join. So we have facilities, finance, policy and governance, and then the community engagement committee, which is already has members. But if you're a new member, then and you're interested in that committee, you may join us, of course. And for the folks online, we can bring a laptop and breakout groups.
Yep. someone here will have to have the device on and open and connected to be able to talk
Yep, so
to
if,
someone there.
if,
Unless they want it to be a breakout group, well,
We could
add it
add it
because I
they
think,
could be on different committees.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so I think we probably can do 3 breakout rooms.
And
And
then
then
one here.
someone from each group will bring their laptop and log on so they can join their respective groups. Like I can, as the community engagement person, can
Mhm.
join a breakout group with.
Yeah, if folks want to log on now, because I'll need to be able to create the groups, I'll need to have them
Okay.
logged in.
Right.
I got a question. Have people been assigned to groups or are we just gonna walk to where we wanna go?
Correct. I mean, I think folks have expressed some interest. But now it's go time. Make sure when you first log on that you turn your volume off. Because it's gonna get really loud and echoey.
Echoey.
And then once you go to your spot, you can turn it back on.
Hey, Steve.
Can you tell us who had thought they were doing which pieces or
Oh,
what
gosh.
new people had been wanting to do?
So I know the Community Engagement Committee.
Okay.
Me, Kristen, Liz and Bailey. Policy and Governance was Steve and Aaron's. I don't know who else.
Yeah, was there anybody else who wanted to do policy governance? I can't remember.
Well, I said that I would do either
Me too.
policy, governance, or finance. And I was kind of thinking, at least in my own mind, I'd do whatever Steve didn't do.
Right.
I think,
Okay.
You know,
So should we put you on finance?
yeah,
You okay with that?
I'll do either one.
Okay. And then Kevin, I think, were you facilities leaning that way?
Sure.
Okay, so if you haven't, so Sarah,
I think I would like to do finance,
okay,
but I'm flexible-ish.
okay, and Justin
Facility is
and Mike.
interesting. Finance or policy and government is perfectly good for me,
Kathy.
just to make it complicated.
Okay, I'm gonna put you on finance.
You don't,
Barb,
Okay, your committee.
community engagement, okay. Kathy,
Either finance or facilities.
I'm gonna put you on facilities. And is that everybody?
Kristen.
Kristen and Liz are with me in community
Okay, all
engagement.
right.
So right now, policy and governance has 2, finance has 3, facilities has 3. And community engagement has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Bailey, you had expressed interest, but you're leaving.
Yeah. What would you like to switch right now, or do you want to stay where you are? I mean, so Steve and Aaron, do you feel okay being a committee of 2?
Heck, yeah.
Nimble?
Nimble, yeah.
Okay, why don't we just
Hard
keep it as it
workers.
is for now, and we'll see how it goes. So your charge tonight is to review and wordsmith and finalize the charge and the constitution of your members. And then we'll come back together to vote to adopt all of that and to appoint folks to those committees. And I think we said we'd have until.
You'll need to appoint a chair as well.
Right. So somebody needs to be the appointed chair and the hope is to come back at 7:45.
Okay.
Wait, is that right? Am I looking at the wrong one?
7:54 is public comment, so that would make sense, 7:45.
And if we don't need as much time, great. And if we, yeah.
We could be done by
Um,
8, that would be.
7:30.
Do I hear
Come back at
7:30?
7:30. Okay.
So we don't need a breakout.
No, we don't.
So I
You don't
create,
need to break out
And the
rooms.
finance doesn't.
but we do have
And
some other folks. So in case some community members wanted to join virtually,
Oh.
that might be necessary. So I created 4 breakout rooms. I'm about to hit open all the rooms so you see them. You get to choose which one and they're named by the committee name. So just pick the one that you're going to. And then community members will know they can pick whichever one they have the interest in.
okay, and then do people want to spread out a little bit so we don't have echoing?
Yeah.
Yes. And we'll have the, oh wait, did you say which committee has which room?
I did not.
Okay, so community engagement will be breakout 1. Policy and governance will be 2.
Well, they're named, so
Oh, sorry.
people will just have to choose the one that they're gonna go to. But
Yes,
I thought you meant in terms of
I knew
I thought you
that.
meant which physical room.
No,
Okay.
no, okay, great. Yeah, so we can spread out. Community engagement, we're a big group. How about,
You guys can stay here.
oh,
So,
okay, so I'm on Zoom.
We'll go back and.
did we have to leave? Did you have to?
You wanna go to the campfire room?
Yeah.
No, a breakout room.
Brad, I can do it.
So you're with Kevin and
If you need anybody, they can just use.
Oh, he's got a laptop.
Oh, okay.
So if you don't want to block.
so Kevin, do you want to go with Justin?
So.
Wanna go to a laptop?
And we've talked it as
Yeah.
central office
Plug
leaders.
in.
Beth is gonna join community engagement, Katrina's gonna join policy and governance. Lloyd and I are gonna probably have to bounce a bit between facilities and.
Billy, you're gonna hang out.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so I'll bring my laptop over and we'll. Can you have that document? Yeah. You're gonna join
Oh.
us? Can we just stay in the main room?
Um,
And then I don't need.
dragger tape.
Well, if he leaves with his computer, will we be able?
That won't work.
Do
Okay.
everything?
No, you can, because this runs this main room still.
All right.
So that will be you right there.
So, oh, Kristen moved already into the other room. Liz, can you still hear me? Yeah, so I think we're gonna just stay here. I'm gonna,
Boy, do you want to start
let
with
me just
finance?
text Kristen and tell her.
Oh, wait, I can tell her here.
Oh, great, okay.
Hey, Kristen, can you hear me? So we're gonna hang out in the main room, instead of going to a breakout room. Okay.
Yeah,
Does it make sense that we're all kind of doing our mini groups and then for the minute, when we come back together, people might make comment and then I can just summarize like the summary of all the discussions.
that sounds great. That sounds great. Thank you.
So I just muted.
Okay.
There's no.
All right, so I'm just. So I don't think you need to worry about being on Zoom anymore because we're gonna just use the main room. Is your
Sometimes I have to shut my
system
phone
volume
off.
totally off? You have to like go into your computer and, yeah, I'm gonna just pull up, so does everyone know how to find the committee folder?
Only because you sent it to us.
Oh, Barb, you moved.
I shut it off.
Oh, there you are. Oh, my gosh.
Are you driving?
Oh, my gosh.
Sorry.
Oh, to my husband. I'm having so many moments like that lately where I am frightened for my brain. All right, so the community engagement folder is already really well populated and probably pretty unorganized because I'm the only one who's been in charge of it. But for tonight, I'm pretty sure it's in just the first top layer. Oh, and also that's really weird that the community engagement committee folder, I don't understand how to fix this without a lot of effort, but it's like a folder within a folder, and that first folder is blank. So maybe someday we'll figure that out.
Yeah, I was trying this afternoon to open it.
No, wait, I went right to it.
Wasn't happening.
Let me go back. So I went to boards, right?
And then you go to.
And I went to community engagement, right?
Oh, she put it up on the upper level. Yeah, go ahead. Oh,
Is
okay.
that right?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Okay. So within that top layer is our charge.
Did you share? I don't know if we have that.
You probably don't. So I'll share it with everybody right now. And then this way it'll be at the top of everyone's.
It's about helping the board have more say within the, where I'm doing things, you know, I mean, I'm not that I don't think there's board that exactly.
And Liz and Kristen, can you see the charge? Okay, great, awesome.
Yep.
So this was written and adopted a while ago. So we can. Evaluate whether it still reflects what we do, or if there's anything we might want to change or add. Oh,
I think this is the one that you emailed earlier today, under the committees.
my goodness, did we revise it and I don't have it on here?
That as I was going through.
Can you open that up?
I'm just making sure it's.
We've got something charged for the wrong.
Yeah, so it's the email you sent us with committees.
Yeah.
It was in committees.
Oh,
It said revise.
hang on, we want to make sure that we have the right one, that we're all looking at the right one.
Oh, gosh.
No.
Yeah.
Does yours say revised April 2021, the charge?
I believe that's one page.
Yeah, that's
Engagement
it.
committee charge. It's one page. There's no thing.
Okay, so,
I'm gonna send you this new one. Because this was revised.
And then we can report back to the board saying, you know, this looks good to us. I mean,
Every time we present a budget,
This is the right one. All right, great.
I agree, I feel, I mean, the monthly, I expressed my opinion about the, but of course, we'll sign off.
Oh, yes. Now I remember this conversation.
But that's really not the big issue. Big issue.
Okay.
I got it.
Okay, so everybody can take a minute to look at this.
Because we have the board meetings and, presentation for it, but we're here for 2 hours, and you have 10 things to do, and one agenda item is the budget, and kind of.
And so to your case, goes to where? It goes to Bar Terry, right? You know, and that's. I get grilled all the time with her because she goes through each one of those.
Oh, you're kidding.
No, each one of those signs them physically, and when she has a question, there's a yellow sticky on it, and we're gonna chat. And
Oh.
so you have, and that's the
I didn't
role of
know
the
that.
treasurer, is she doesn't work for the district.
Right.
She works for the board to protect your fiduciary plan,
Okay.
you know? And so
So I
she would come in.
I just
and go,
noted
all.
right away that we need to make sure it
There's a
reflects
warrant
that we're not 5 towns.
Can you explain? So that in and of itself is a great safety net. If you didn't even know
Just
that
gonna
you
put
had.
at the bottom.
Right. You know, that, and she's not gonna sign for you.
Right.
And she's not going for.
Does he find before us about that?
We talked at the last meeting about membership
She signed off.
oh, yeah.
and what that would constitute. And so there isn't anything in here about
She's gone through
membership.
all 107 pages,
before we get to.
So we had talked about the
which is.
board members being voting members, right?
Should be, Lincoln will say, why do we even need a treasurer? in some of their conversations. I said, well, you're the board and said, well, the reason you want a treasurer is to protect you and the community from me.
Yeah, maybe we come back to that, the membership piece, but looking at the bullets, what thoughts, comments, reflections do people have?
How much of it is short term, like what's next year's budget, versus kind of what is what's long term financial.
I thought that consider opportunities to partner with community leaders and organizations to expand reach and effectiveness.
Well, and part of that comes in with the policy governance structure, right? So
Where
that
we
it ends in needs. You guys in the end. Need to meet.
I have no idea.
So you kind of say, this is where we want to be. You figure out how to
Good
get there.
question.
This, I think, is to your point, is kind of a, are we doing
It kind of sounds
the
like
means
you're already
correctly to
there.
get to our
Mhm.
end?
Expanded, is that true?
And,
Trying to think back to when
and are our
when this
ends
was written. And what we were trying to capture.
interpreted. And then.
I think it was the idea that,
in terms of the budget.
Yeah. Pick up in my-
That-
I agree. I think that some components of, you know.
Or
in particular,
that outreach can include,
The big picture. You know, looking at the-
working with
You know, 5 years down the road, we have an issue, right? So how-
organizations in the community.
Respond to the, you
Um,
know, keeping in mind that we're gonna be physically,
like, for example, the pre-K conversation that we just started is one example that. And the language might not be the right language. I see what you're saying, but it may be that we need to think about what that says.
So it's okay to go.
What I think was in our mind at the time was recognizing that so much of what schools do is not just in isolation, and that as we think about the future direction of the district and we want to get input on that direction and engagement, that we might want to reach out, not just to stakeholder, like family members and stakeholders, but also to people already doing similar work in the community.
Well, yeah, I think that.
But could we change that to better? Can we reword
The
that?
first paragraph. In a meaningful manner to inform, enhance, and contribute to the vision. The long-term planning and student success, like that to me is very.
Yeah, it's almost like that bullet isn't finished.
Right, right.
Yeah. In fact,
Yeah, I kind of had that thought too, that it sounded sort of like an incomplete thought. Like there's something more juicy to add to the end of that.
To expand and reach for effectiveness,
The public doesn't get involved until last minute, right?
because you want the goal is to be effective by
One thing I would add, if I were sitting where you are.
expanding and
I would
reaching
have some
out
sort of an
to
audit
partners.
Where you're.
That's the way I hear that, but I don't.
Something
believe
that
that
if
way.
you say, I want to see where we are.
and I read it a little differently. I read that we're trying to expand our reach. And the
Okay, yeah.
effectiveness for what, I guess, is the question.
Yeah.
Effectiveness or something for, I mean, student success, student outcomes are always our main things. I don't know if we need something to bring it back to the kids.
Yes, I think that's a good point, because I think what we're hoping to do is make sure that the reason the board connects with the community is to make sure that the community is, that we're informing our vision and our mission and our goals based on, in some part, on what the community's thoughts and values are. So the effectiveness is expand reach toward.
So that's that's iterated in the first paragraph, I think. What if you just put consider opportunities to partner with community leaders and organizations?
period.
within.
Yeah, maybe take out that.
Yeah.
within the picture,
Think about that.
As a year.
Yeah, that feels more concise.
Snapshot of.
Liz, are you okay with that?
We talked about this was back in September, and I'm looking at how this all sugared out, and it's spot on, or you went
Okay,
off
so
on
I'm
some
gonna
tangent.
Put a strike through that for right now.
Whichever, or
Could even
somewhere.
put consider opportunities to
And,
expand
And
partnerships
that gives you
Hmm.
with
I'll just take
community
yes at the
leaders. and
top.
Okay.
and then.
They're not-
Yeah,
that
that's a good idea.
expansion.
Better opportunities to expand.
Yeah, I mean, I think we should come up with a work plan.
Yeah, that's, I like that, that's clear. The first bullet, I'm curious, thinking of this as like a community member reading this. Be grounded in best practices for community engagement. I don't know what that means necessarily, like where do you get best practices, or do we have a link or something?
Mhm. Yeah.
I'm sure there's lots of ideas
Well,
around that.
truly,
Yeah.
You know, the three of you, somebody's not going to run for reelection at some point. Well, you keep saying that, we're not gonna actually run. But.
I wonder if-
The point being that, having this.
Because they're probably always changing, and it requires the board be someone educated in that. So maybe that's the part,
Yeah.
is more just that. Okay.
Well, I don't know if like
Committee will seek opportunities to
remain
become
up to
educated
date.
about best practices or.
Yeah, or remain up to date in the best practices, maybe.
I wonder if the state organization might have some
Yeah, so then-
information on that.
Which is in March, it's July 1.
Right, that's what I mean.
In terms of providing support for you.
With best practices on best practices.
Or, yeah, or even a little before, which is where.
Who's an English major, with or on?
With or on best practice. I think it's.
Let's look at how we did and are doing. We've only got 50 days left. Sure.
With, would be with the, I don't know.
I think so. Can we go March/April?
Well, we could just take out that first bullet if you're putting it up there.
March
Yeah,
is-
I'm trying to decide where it should go. I don't know, because this is really focused on a plan, multi-year community engagement plan,
Yeah, and using best practices is how you're gonna do it.
right?
Yeah,
March 8th, so
I visually, I like less in
We're-
paragraphs and
we're
more
tying down
in
the
bullets.
end.
It's just, it's not, doesn't feel so
I'm
overwhelming.
getting a pretty good sense of where we are for.
So-
fund balance, what we've spent money on. things we've done
So the bullets relate to the plan.
Versus budget.
I will say that,
Um.
Right.
that in the years that I've been on the committee, we have not had a multi-year plan. So I wonder if that's an aspiration or a task. We haven't been able to achieve that. I mean, that would be lovely, but we're often like reacting.
Mhm.
And so.
When you say
um,
multi-year, how many year are you thinking, like 2, 3,
After the budget.
Right.
something like that?
Yeah.
Anything more than one.
I think that, that came from one of the policy governance booklets on engagement that talks about, in an ideal world, everything we do is pretty forward-looking and proactive. And so you might,
The other
be able to roll out a plan like that, but
ability
the reality is that
framework,
hasn't
what
been
you're going to push
easy to
on,
do.
that's
Maybe we'll get there.
not,
I think it would be good to have that in support of what you're saying, so that if and when board members change, they know their task. It's still, the goal is still the same.
And be able to say,
It's
here's our
changing
focus for
with
this year's budget.
percentage.
So then, when we revisit every year through monitoring report or, before we form committees again every year in reorganization, will we just
October. Yeah, we're rolling things forward.
kind of note that that's the aspiration, and then we'll be noting whether or not we've been able to achieve that, so that it's pushing toward that, even if it's not been achieved.
I think there's I think we're really good at developing plans, it's the implementation of the. So if we're working on the development of the plan and then in the future, the implementation of this.
Those are big bullets,
Yeah.
right? Like, that's a lot. Like, they can each be their own plan, really, right? Like, being able to promote and track participation by different groups to identify those underrepresented, that's huge.
And we have to make plans to have.
Right,
How
so.
would we do that and how would we do implementation? So that to me, that was like,
Cause you could spend a whole year working on just that, almost like a big chunk of time.
Well, it seems like we have.
This has her hand there.
Go ahead, Liz.
Right?
Yeah, and I think, so I guess I have one, well, for that comment, I also know that I feel like every time we're making a plan to accomplish the goals that we have set here in the charge, we also don't always know exactly what the results will be, so we can't necessarily make the next step of our plan immediately, because we're like, okay, what feedback are we going to get? And then we use that and we share it, so it's kind of dependent, right? Or it's dependent on the issues that we're discussing. So I think it would be hard to get much more detail than this. And then there's so much detail. My question is all of the detail that's in the MAUSD board communication structure process and best practices, right? Like that's kind of our taking the policy and then narrowing it down, and or not narrowing, adding more detail. More levels. So that has a ton in it. And right now I'm wondering how that interacts with our linkage policy that's being worked on by the policy group. How do those overlap or interact? Could one be a part of both, or could they be integrated into one document, or are they really separate? They just, I don't know. That's what I'm wondering.
Appreciate that, Liz. I had a question about the communications plan, because I think what's happened sometimes is that we get focused on that there's engagement and then there's communication and PR. And it's a lot for one committee to do. And so we have this process, but it's really hard to follow it. You know, in an ideal world, we have a marketing and communications person that's employed by the district to do that, because we should be focused on opportunities for linkage, which includes lots of communication, but
So when do you think that would be?
yeah, it's challenging. So I don't know what to do with that, because we developed that plan, but we don't follow it with fidelity all the time. We try. I don't know what other people think about that.
If something's really
I
wrong.
guess I'm not familiar with the
Right,
language.
right,
Yeah, I'm just
It's in that
trying to
honesty
pull that up to put it
that starts.
into our,
If, you know, Floyd suddenly is purchasing.
so it's
an
part of our
island
board
in the
governance
Caribbean,
policy.
And you
We
want
added
out in
it
front of that would be a.
last year, I think.
community.
Hotel charges to follow.
And so you know how the board has different
Not this-
policies
not
that
this,
we
you know, the
review
treasurer
how
is
we're
supposed to
doing
purchase
almost every month. And we
at
also have policies that
about the
relate
same
to
time
Patrick's work.
early
And so this is one of the
um,
ways we measure our board work,
trying
and
to-
it's around how we connect with our owners. And so it talks about the need to
That's the
develop
rigor of the
a multi-year plan.
budget development process.
Let's not get up to- I think it might be on one of the community engagement committee agendas. Let's see. So just the thing on 4.8 is a pretty big task.
You want to make sure
So
that,
I'm,
I just want, if I were
What do you
sitting.
want to provide employees to the superintendent?
Correct. And you want to make sure that the Patrick Floyd team isn't just taking last year's budget and saying, yeah, that's 3% everything, let's go.
there we go.
Then it's not, are we addressing the needs? Well, if we addressed it perfectly in the previous year, I would say, sure. But
So we're meeting with you. about,
probably mostly me on that one. Yeah.
in November,
Mhm.
Here it is.
budget process.
And I-
Okay, so I just put it into the document.
Drivers is a good term, because it's,
So,
everything's gonna be different in terms of,
You put it
what's used
into
this
the
year.
agenda?
just
nope,
energy,
I put the ownership linkage plan into our committee
and
charge.
we're way overspent on.
It was mentioned 4.8,
fuel oil,
but it wasn't linked to the actual
Okay.
policy.
right? And then.
So we have this board communications
20%
process, which kind of talks about how we,
They move that to the. pricing
write,
structure
draft,
that they
write,
want.
review, and send out
Right, so
materials.
Now.
But this is really about our overall
that's the
plan
downside
for
of
making
budget
sure we're
putting budgets
regularly, we're accountable to the
for
people in our community
following
and
stuff
how we interpret that.
July,
um,
based on a winter, in this example, that we haven't had yet.
includes the board will establish and maintain a 3-year ownership linkage plan.
Again, to get back to the issues.
I wonder if our charge is almost should mirror
Well,
this.
Or in line with it.
I like
You
to
know,
be determined.
that the two were written at
If-
different
if I'm
times,
sitting here
but-
and I know what you're gonna look at.
Go cook the books.
So
I don't
This
think I-
governance
somebody else is gonna, you know,
policy
I mean,
kind of
I
is
will
the-
I will promise you that
Almost
that
not-
particular
the charge.
area will
Sorry,
be
go ahead,
well-
Barb.
so this would be the umbrella? This one?
That's what I'm
Yeah.
wondering.
You guys talk about it in June, and in September, you tell me. And then, well, because then it's your budget, your oversight is very clear that. But no, your auditing is what we're doing, and it's a very early stage. Your ends would be in July, so that I'm trying to build the budget reflective of what you want. And then
Let's say
you're
something
auditing in September, maybe October,
When you say audit.
where the board goes in and looks at, okay, internal audit, we want to, yeah, thank you. We want to look at what you're doing. Right, so the board's auditing.
So if we do one of those, then we could kind of do the second, maybe the third.
Yeah.
I think one smack dab in the middle of putting the budget together, I think September would be good.
And hard,
Right.
The governance
Yeah, I mean, for me to-
policy would be directly related to that last bullet too, right? Community feedback.
yeah, I mean, I'm sitting here and
Yes.
I'm trying to straddle from both views. From my view,
Yeah.
the last thing I want is another thing added to my plate in that window. If I'm standing on your side,
And that's clear.
that's exactly what I want you, I want to dive into the pond here.
Well, let's go.
And yet, the owner and
Right.
gathered through a variety of methods,
I think it's
including but
perfect.
not limited to focus group surveys, public.
Much as I hate saying it.
Advisory committees, so that there's your connection.
Is there anything in the board governance policy that isn't
Are you prepared for? Basically, meet monthly with us?
I would rather.
Okay.
Yeah.
called out
I would
in the
think
rest
that
of this
we-
charge? Or, I mean, do they mirror each other enough that we, for the charge, just refer people to the policy?
What's going on right now?
I think my only hesitation is the policies are just so challenging to digest.
The language.
The language
Mhm.
is not user friendly.
Mhm.
And I feel like the bullets and the language is much more user friendly. But maybe we
So we,
interpret the
I think the
you know,
idea is that-
legal policy
Fine.
speak into layman's terms.
Could you
Yeah,
cite
we recognize
certain
that
portion of
the
it
other thing under my realm,
versus the whole thing? Cause like to get,
so that second
to
meeting.
dig into it
I'm gonna
and to
be-
find it is the first challenge. And then, like you said, to interpret it
The-
is the second
It's
piece.
great advantage, because then you can talk freely without.
Yeah, I'm almost
without
reading
one
these
guy
times,
saying,
like, okay.
you know, and there's that.
Oh, yeah. I get that.
Well, we want to meet with
What we do, right,
But I don't think I-
I think that's where
was that,
um,
and that.
people
would
can
be
get bogged down.
We just have to-
Because the parent is looking for information. They're like, oh, it's in our policy and procedures, and you're reading this, you're like, where, what?
Yeah.
And I think having that communication, especially for this one, should be really straightforward.
the nice thing is we're not. If we're not, we're here, we're all being careful.
Okay, so our charge is to involve the community.
The advantage of free is you're not.
Stated in
forced.
the policy.
We don't have to worry.
But it's
about
all of our community.
Yeah. Well,
it. That's a good board question.
yeah, well, I think if happens to be.
At the same time. they just have to be-
Do we, so with the bullets, so what do you think about how it looks right now, having,
Good.
there's a reference to the policy, and then the next paragraph would be to point to some of the bulleted examples of what specifically the committee is going to focus on. So if we do that, we still have that first bullet that's a little wonky, which is about breast.
Looking for best
I
practice.
think we should probably put.
Yeah.
Anything.
Like, there's probably not one,
Four.
No,
Best
two,
practices for
three,
community
Um,
Well, wouldn't it be outlined in here, like,
Mhm.
whoever wrote this set the
Ownership of the community.
standard for what the best practice expectations are?
and a number of them are called out already, so maybe it's not necessary to say that.
you can structure it where it's not.
Diverse opportunities for engagement,
Or,
specifically seeking to
you know, I mean, to
identify and
either bring someone in, keep them, or bring someone in.
note how well we're engaging with underrepresented groups.
Yeah, and I think.
These are all examples of that, so maybe we can take that out.
Yeah. I think that would be okay. I think you cover everything that's important. And I think that the linkage is important, but it's right there. So I don't think you need that in a bullet too.
Online friends, are you okay if we take out that first bullet? Since
I think he likes that role.
it seems a little broad and we're not sure exactly what it refers to, and the bullets below are examples of best practices.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, with
okay.
your support.
Yeah.
We will be.
Okay, so this plan provides diverse opportunities for engagement. promotes diverse participation. So now what do we want to do about this board communication process?
Which goes
I mean,
back
do we
to the
want,
bill.
if we're talking about aspirational multi-year plans, are we talking about aspirational communication process? And so it's okay to keep it in?
What becomes.
Does it
Are we
live?
gonna develop our own, or is it already been developed?
Yeah, so if you click on that link, you see it was adopted in 2019. So this in and of itself probably needs to be looked at again, but-
Rather than develop, or adopt.
or follow,
We're not gonna- yeah.
follow this.
I feel like it's comprehensive enough to start with, and we could go back to it later. I think that other bullets are more important.
Okay.
Yeah.
As I really want to make sure we're bringing information back to the board from the community and other things before I worry about the,
Yeah.
So to that end, should we move that bullet down?
Oh, if these are
Please.
priority wise.
I mean, not necessarily, but as you read it, sometimes that's
That's true,
assumed.
maybe it's at the end.
But do you do that, or you tag into the.
I guess I just don't know how we do all these things.
That is such a great question. I don't know either.
Communication's not like up top. I mean,
Is it- is
not
there
really.
somebody- I thought I saw some hands flailing.
So, sorry, so what are you saying? So you're saying you feel like this is actually,
I don't know if communication's the right word, but transparency, like what we're working on is here and there.
Any of those.
Because we were, provide diverse opportunities for engagement. Well, how is that gonna be communicate? How are we going to, it's not communicating, but how are we going to?
I have thought, but
Yeah,
no, I don't
know.
Go
Go ahead.
I feel like this is great.
But getting back to me,
But
I think.
There's gonna be a bridge at some point. where the community has to give input and say, these are the important issues. And that would be the incentive for then the board to help facilitate whatever we need to do for this document. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that's where I was struggling with how to have a multi-year plan, where in my mind, I think of having a structure. So what do diverse opportunities look like? So you have online, you have mail-in, you have this, you have that, you have paper. And maybe the thing we're lacking, heard a couple of times lately, is like going to each town. And either we transition back to moving around, or we have an opportunity quarterly, or I don't know, whatever, for somebody, a couple of people to show up in Moncton and New Haven, or whatever, just to hear. And there's a structure to that. Like, I almost think like of this as like a framework of how to give and get info.
Yeah.
And then work on those topics, like, oh, wow, disability inclusion is huge right now. Okay, how are we going to then bring this to the board? How do we share out the information we already have with community members? And I don't know that. I think once that was in place, you could then look at your topics. But I think, and a lot of that is in place.
I think that's.
But I wonder if it does need to be like
that
framed out
Conversation.
a little bit more, or maybe a timeline, or I don't know.
I
What
guess-
makes sense.
I guess that is the desire to have this, to have a multi-year plan.
That would be the plan. Okay.
You would probably want
And
everybody.
what is included in the plan might be a timeline,
And
topics, methods, or, getting input or sharing information. So that's the
when
mechanics,
I'm sitting in that meeting over there.
how we're gonna do this thing. But the thing should include these bigger principles. I think I'm glad that I'm rereading that the reason for doing it is we want to make sure that before we make big decisions, we're getting the input of people.
And if I'm sitting
Yeah.
involved,
So it might be big decisions about the budget. Every year we, have a meeting about the budget. It might be big
then
decisions
it
about
becomes.
equity. It might be big
before you
decisions
get too
about
far down the path,
facilities.
and you
We've
engage
done a lot of that
communications and
work
about
so that we're
how
always
going
saying,
to
okay,
build
we're looking
public
forward and we're talking about
and
trends
then
and
talk to the finance committee about how
factors and implications that we're gonna be facing. When we, the small group, or our administrators decide what to
But
do.
that's where,
This committee's charge of saying, what are we gonna do to engage our community, see what they think? So if we're doing that,
Fascinating.
what should that include? Or what are yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, that reminds me of the board work plan.
Yeah.
Because our board work plan kind of lays out the intentions of when we're gonna submit our policies, like our monitoring reports. It lays out when the budget will happen. It lays out stuff like that. So it reminds me of that. And the thing that's nice about that is there is flexibility, and we review it in the summertime and look at the plan throughout the year, but it's not set in stone, because sometimes a mailer isn't always the best way, but we do always put it in the paper. So having a work plan is nice because it allows some flexibility. Like a monitoring report wasn't ready this month, so we do it the next month, right? So it does have that not so set in stone, but it can be what we know we want to do, even if it's and it gives everyone something they can go look at to see. So maybe it's more of a work plan for community engagement.
I like that idea. I was also looking at the ends policy to see if we need to go back and focus on that, but I think that the topics the community is going to be more interested in are the things that will be coming up on our agenda the next couple months. So if it's the idea of figuring out what to do with central office, I guarantee you there's some thoughts. Right, and so how do we get that and make sure that the board knows what the community is thinking in a timely manner? And I think that turnaround is a lot of work, and that's, I don't know how to make that feasible for even a large group, but a group of people.
I was even thinking about, we're talking about school choice policy.
Okay.
We really should
Where are we on that? Yeah.
have some sort of.
All tires on the car now?
Yeah.
I think the word very caught on words right now, but I feel like awareness should be somewhere because just being made aware.
I'll peel back our,
If I'd been aware,
our accountant
just that,
is.
not really engaged.
I would-
Yep. Yep.
It's a lot of.
One of the things working
Yeah.
Like engagement means, oh my God, I have
is
to
our
do
accounting
it
software.
versus being just made aware.
Yep.
and bridge those two.
I think that's important, and I wonder if,
So that's one of, so we're trying to do it internally already.
in that
So
second paragraph, where it says we're
we're
developing a plan.
Flow chance, but there's a possibility.
Well, it says timely
that
information
we might
sharing.
Be able to really, very quickly structure a way to.
Maybe something in there
convert
about-
now to that structure.
because it is both, it's both making sure people know what's happening and giving them opportunities to, so we're gonna inform. And we might, and that might be all the engagement we do on a particular thing. And sometimes we might do like a deep
That would
dive.
be
Sometimes it might be somewhere in between, but I'm not sure. I think you're right about that. I don't know if that's.
Yeah, I guess it is in a meaningful manner too.
presentations to the board in that structure.
And I wonder,
So would that be a bullet?
That was
Maybe?
my
I don't know what you call that as a
I
bullet.
think so.
That this plan would include both informing people about what's happening and
No, I mean, it just,
seeking feedback.
it's, heck of a-
I think you're right, the word participation feels very action oriented, where maybe just clicking a couple buttons on a form is good enough. I do wonder if we could like
Through that.
figure out a way to like,
I would like that to be something. we
of
try
the things we're going to be addressing in the next 6 months, what does the community think is gonna bubble to the top is most important? If we could figure out that one or two things, then could we offer engagement in person or something with those things?
So you're saying that we base engagement based on what community priorities are?
Yeah, I don't know, right, like how do we,
Right.
like we can't possibly
That's-
decide on our own and do it all, right? So I might think like, oh, well, a new playground is gonna be important to people. Well, it might be, but it may not be, right? Like, or it might be that, the lobby or, I don't know, the budget hopefully would be, people don't tend to show up, right? So I think it kind of, if people knew ahead of time, other than looking for the agenda for the next month, like
Yeah.
if I knew the pre-K stuff was coming as a community member, I'd be there. If I knew we were talking about central office, I might be there, but I may not care about the other stuff.
And to piggyback on that, what might happen is the community members might take, you may adopt the groups to facilitate those bullet items versus the org doing all the work. You could get like sponsor groups out there.
Okay, we're getting close on time. So our task right now is to just get this in good enough shape that we think we can adopt it, knowing that it hadn't been looked at since 2021. And now hopefully it will be looked at the start of every new board term. So,
I think we could, understanding the multi-year plan better, I think we could come up with a framework
That's the.
and kind of like
model.
try it for a year
Yeah.
and then see what happens. Yeah.
Relevant.
We might
I
be like,
think
"Ooh,
it
that was a
translates
good idea.
to that.
Do this or something, and then it might work great.
And I'll look for it.
I don't think we're trying to like pick these apart for each thing. We are trying to build a better framework, and that makes more sense, right?
Yes, I found your website.
It might be your.
Is
space.
is there a spot in here to add Beth's idea of transparency? So maybe after the first bullet, to provide input into district decisions with transparency or something. Just is there, so this kind of a descriptive word, is there a place That seems like the right place to, or maybe not at this time, but I think that's a good word.
I think that first bullet, and maybe you could wordsmith information sharing about what's happening in the district, maybe that could be twisted to include the word transparency and awareness or something, because I think that transparency is very big, people say it a lot, so if we put that word in there. That
We
might
could
be,
say something like the plan will encourage transparency involvement by sharing information with having the district and providing opportunities for input.
We need to draft a letter that says that somebody else, you know, and then you get some help and.
When a community member says, who do I talk to about?
Okay, we'll come back to that. Does it say how it's going to be evaluated? Because it is, this committee is directly linked to a monitoring report, so that gives us what's the word, accountability.
So the other thing is on.
We had the ability to request expenses. So for committee membership, maybe we can talk about what this, the group, but we're talking about, there was a conversation last time to make sure that we had at least a certain number, but not limiting the number of board members. Do you remember that conversation? Does anyone remember that? For committee membership? Yeah.
I don't remember the specifics, but I do remember that we did talk about it.
Aaron, did you guys put something in about committee membership, like the number two?
Yep.
It includes 2 board members or at minimum?
Something like.
And then we made public participation at their discretion with non-voting.
And when the next one is long, going, oh, we've never had one this long, I hope we don't again.
Is they invited to participate?
Yep.
At their discretion.
We want to ask Krista about discretion.
Okay. All right, do we feel okay about this for now? All right, oh, you folks are not. So many. No. Thank you.
There was some conversation.
Were you in the meeting before this too, Katrina?
It's
You weren't at the meeting before this one?
The MTS safety one?
The what? Revolving door over there.
Joint ventures.
That's likely. I know it's like. Yeah, right. Summer is. Water house. We don't own that. We have a suit there. You're going to hear in summer. Summer is gonna be, it's gonna be. It's gonna be. And then we feel like. First of all, everybody's here. They're all coming back. Well, and sorry, 190 kids, bigger than. Right. Oh, that's your. Like, you're gonna get a break. Which is a fun thing to not have a break from, but it's still a lot, like. This is bigger than other, but we've been in the mid-150s. We're just growing on. But
We,
doubled the preschool class this year.
we're gonna
Second year with our.
do redraft of the charter.
Yep.
Right away. And
Your committee, you're telling me what your committee.
yeah, with the chart, so you can take the chart is basically fine, but we want to add some stuff.
Yeah.
Tweak it.
Got it all, right?
And then we're gonna do a plan, a year-long work plan.
Yeah.
And then Mike is gonna be our chairperson.
Great.
Is there a format like the when you wanted to run these, or do you want them to be all the same time on the second Tuesday? Or are you wanting us to
pick the times, because that affects how we,
I mean, I guess,
we don't care.
so,
No, we're project group.
so we can be virtual, fully virtual.
And we, so would you like us to meet and have like a board meeting where there's a public comment at the beginning and that we're all here at the same time, or we're all virtual at the same time? Or are you hoping for it to be like, and they just have to meet at some point to get the stuff to be able to share out?
I think
At the
that's a great
meeting.
question. I think the goal is that folks don't have to attend more than 2 meetings a month. But one of the, and like I know with community engagement committee, we are really tight to 2 hours. We do not meet longer than that.
Right.
The only thing that could be an advantage of everybody having their meeting times on the same day as a carousel style kind of thing, which we
For the
could still do.
administration.
Yes. That's an advantage. I was also thinking of these. We're gonna try to avoid it happening, but sometimes there's a need for an executive session.
Right.
Mm.
And we're already there.
That's going down a slippery slope, I think. I mean,
Yeah.
if we need an executive session, I think we should have a meeting. to have
Just
an-
for that.
For that, because otherwise, we're all trying to focus on our committee work
Yeah,
and then we kind of pulled away.
yeah, that's a
And
good
I, and
point.
I don't know, we kind of talked about it, but Sarah, I think we need to commit to having a committee meeting every month.
Yeah,
Right.
But whether it's at the same day every month or even the same time, I'm
Right.
not sure. I mean, and
The only
And I
thing I
feel
will
like-
say is that it does need to be warned.
committee meetings,
Because it's an official.
okay, all right.
And so there is that,
It would be
Okay.
easier if they were at the same time.
I
for
think
that
for
part.
your chair. Whomever that might be.
We did this and it was very fast.
You did a lot of arm twisting.
Yeah.
Fair, the new guy.
The new guy.
We thought he was a great guy.
But
I think so.
so
Kathy, I think you can go back to the main room now.
The other piece of it that we thought of like was community being able to come in
mhm,
during when you meet twice a month, that they know where you are, like they know when you're meeting.
Yeah.
But there's way more ways for them to be engaged if we have these committees that have something maybe that is more interesting to certain community members. So
Well, if we all meet at on the same day, we can have different spaces around the school, right? That's not a problem.
Yeah, I don't think that's a problem.
Okay.
would you like us to start by meeting all at the same time?
Well, it might make sense for the first meeting anyway,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
you can kind of agree on your schedule.
At least through this school year.
why don't we do that?
Okay.
That's fine.
And
then we-
reevaluate. at the
Yeah, we'll have,
retreat.
in our retreat, we decide, and I think what would be ideal is that if you have a set schedule, whatever that schedule is moving forward. And if it can be worked out with the administrators, so that it's doable for them as well. That's something that-
Well, and as Floyd pointed out, I mean, we have a logistics issue in the sense that he has to be kind of available to both committees, both the facilities committee and the finance
Oh,
committee.
okay.
So there's some advantage to having at least those two committees meeting at the same time and physical place.
Okay,
Or separate enough to.
Right.
Yes. Join.
Right.
One individual.
Right.
And Patrick, which one are you trying to go to mostly? Or not go to?
Similar to Floyd, I think facilities and finance
Yeah.
are likely to need pretty equal support.
And the governance one as well, for you, I think would want some of your time. They would want some of yours, you might want to have some input there.
We
Nope,
have
we're good.
we have the extra.
We're good.
Having never heard of too many chefs in the kitchen. Mixing on our very fluid group conversation.
Already, the town's already, well.
I also recognize that we as an admin team and behind the scenes talk about the work that each of the committees is doing.
Yeah.
And even if I'm not sitting there, but I've had a chance to talk with Floyd about it.
Yeah.
You know, vicariously through Floyd,
So-
you're getting support.
So we have actually just one more of these non-work meetings before
Non-business.
we take off for July and then our retreat. So if we can all agree to meet in your committees on the 6th. No, I'm sorry, wait, what's our schedule for June? Let's see.
We have one meeting.
Is it, we just have one meeting in
We
June?
have one special meeting
I think we have 2 as well.
and then
Are we the
The 12th
13th
is the-
and the 27th?
I have the 13th down. in my
13th and
calendar.
the 27th. So on the 13th would be the committee meeting.
Okay.
And then maybe Patrick and Aaron and I can figure out the logistics like space and all that kind of stuff. If we're gonna meet here,
Fine, but
okay. All
we're
right,
all here in person.
so for now, we're gonna do that and then we can talk about what.
So that means we have to have a proper, you have to warn a regular board
Correct.
meeting
So.
because we're all in the same place.
Correct. So for that meeting, the chairs will want to get an agenda to Jennifer by like June 7th, June 8th.
Because we'll need to, if we're gonna be together as a full board doing full board work, that's a meeting. Facilities subcommittee is a separate meeting. As is each of the other subcommittees, so they will each need a warning,
But we won't be
No, each
getting
need to be-
together as a full board.
Not on the
so that
13th.
wouldn't need to be warned then.
But each
of
committee
the
will
other
need
4
to
may be.
warn.
But we're all here at the same place. Are you sure?
I have no idea. Maybe.
If you're not in
No,
the same
we're
room
not
conducting
discussing
business,
things,
then I think you're fine.
Okay.
But you would not be positioned to call an impromptu, hey, let's all come together and be as a full board.
Okay.
Which is a good thing.
Yeah,
Right, it's fine.
I think that's what Brett was advocating for
We
earlier,
couldn't take,
but
we couldn't take any action on anything we came together anyway, because. We
Yeah,
wouldn't
when
want-
we
we wouldn't
You wouldn't
have
have worn any action.
okay, so let's, if we're ready, move into the actual committees themselves. And so trying to think of the best way to do this, because we have a motion to adopt the charges and then we have a motion to appoint members. But the charges, I know the Community Engagement Committee, we made changes to our existing charge. And so are we just going to link them in the minutes after?
I think maybe do one committee at a time and
Yeah.
then
Link-
you'll probably
and then
talk
link.
about the changes that you wanted to make and then they can be approved as amended.
Okay, great. All right, so why don't, we can start with the Community Engagement Committee. So if somebody from that committee can make a motion to adopt the new revised charge.
Can you read it to us?
Well, make a motion first and we can discuss it.
I'll make a motion.
Okay. And we need a second.
I'll second.
Okay, so, Billy, do you want
Can you
to
share?
share?
Sure.
Would you like,
If you edited it, can you put it up on the?
I have the edited version. Well, yeah, you have it too, because it's live.
Yeah, I'm not.
Maybe I see you in there.
Patrick should be able to bring each of the charges up and put them up on the screen. I think.
Can I find it?
It's in, it says email under committees.
I can
I have it.
share with Patrick.
I have it.
Make sure it's resent. Yeah.
Our biggest thing is we brought it over to linking it to the ownership linkage policy. And we did some editing around some wordsmithing. If you scroll down to the bullets, we thought that was the most important part. So we wanted to make sure we got the idea that we're informing, so we're giving information and we're getting information to share with the board. And that we want to do that in a wide range of ways so that it works for all groups of people. and really track the people who are involved, so we can reach out to those who are underrepresented and underrepresented. Yeah, I can't talk. And we talked about our biggest goal being the multi-year plan and having it kind of be a framework for how we're going to do all those bullets. And then kind of trying it out and tweaking from there. I don't know, I think it was kind of that.
Any questions or comments? Okay. All those in favor of adopting the Community Engagement Committee charge, please say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, great. Let's move on to the Finance Committee.
Uh-oh.
You want me to do it?
Yep.
Okay.
So we need a motion to adopt the Finance Committee charge.
We spent the 45 minutes essentially doing a brain dump.
Wait, did
We need, you
Oh, I'm sorry.
want to make the motion?
I'll make a motion. Sure.
Okay, and Sarah, you want a second?
Sure,
Looks like you
second.
do. Great. Okay, go ahead, Brad.
Yeah. So we spent the 45 minutes, kind of doing some brainstorming and a brain dump on, the role of the Finance Committee and its, its relationship with the broader board. So when we looked at the charge as written, we saw a few things in there that we wanted to tweak from a wordsmithing standpoint to kind of talk a little bit more about, why the Finance Committee is important and why it, will sort of add to the efficiency and effectiveness of the broader MAUSD board. In addition to that, there are several other things that we wanted to add to the charge. Most importantly is the requirement that the committee adopt an annual work plan, consisting of specific activities and undertakings and goals and objectives for each month over the course of the year. We wanted to included in that is sort of adding an internal audit component in addition to a review of the external audit. And the importance of connecting with the other committees, most especially the Facilities Committee and the Community Engagement Committee. To sort of make the and keep the budget process at MAUSD as transparent and penetrable as possible. We made a minor adjustment to the committee membership. We think that it should be written to have no fewer than 2 board members, but no more than 4, and same for the community members. And
We haven't made these audits
I was
or
gonna
these
say,
edits.
we haven't.
We didn't have a working computer that would do this.
okay,
We also felt constrained to do a good job on an edit of the charge in 45 minutes. This did not make sense. So, and then the other point, Mike and Sarah add anything that I forgot was to integrate the Levinson recommendations somehow into this process and the work plan.
This year's work plan.
This year's work plan. Did I miss anything?
Just a little bit more about incorporating how, like, our role in the budget process, especially with like a community linkage that part, but that we were figuring out what our role was, I think, a little bit. So just engaging with the community about the budget in one of our months, and then checking in with Lloyd about drivers, etc. And I don't know. We were trying to figure out a way to articulate our role in the budget process while keeping it a little open-ended and having more detail within the work plan. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think we kind of had similar conversations and what I heard when we had, gosh, what was her name? Who came and Jeannie was, the suggestion to evaluate your charge and your work every year. So these are live documents.
So can we approve it without the changes, or should we make the changes and get it approved? And next meeting, or?
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm wondering is, it sounds like you guys want to spend some more time tweaking the charge. I'm curious about a couple other things.
Go ahead.
Well, right now, everybody on the board is responsible for looking at all the pay stubs and all the requisitions and signing off on them every month in this document that's got to go make the rounds to everybody electronically. Now, we can continue to do that. I don't know how much fidelity we really have in that process. I know at the Career Center, there's actually a couple of people who dive into that a little more specifically, and they sign off for the rest of the board. Or they could bring back a recommendation at the end of the month that we all sign off for. That could also be something that the Finance Committee.
Yeah, I think we talked about that a little bit. It kind of fell under the rubric of overseeing and commenting and making suggestions and working with Floyd and Patrick to tweak the processes that we currently utilize and whether they continue to make sense.
So TBD.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, that's really good. It's a really good point. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe only the Finance Committee should be doing the requisitions. I don't know. But
Or maybe it's a rotating job.
yeah.
Well, I'll step on with Steve that it's historical information, it's after the fact, and there's no,
Right.
in my opinion, other than there's a statutory requirement.
Yep.
That the whole board or a delegate has to sign up on it, because everything's done. It's like 60-day old information.
But I know, like, when I first joined the high school board, I forget the senior lady that was on that board who would come, she would come to go down to Patrick's office and go through every slip every month.
Well, we still
Well,
have
we
that
have
with
that,
treasurer,
This
So-
board
which is
member.
effectively your agent.
Designate.
She's not ours.
You know?
Yeah.
So again, just
I mean,
looking at the whole
it's-
process and seeing.
Yeah,
what
I mean,
really
it
makes
it
sense.
seems to me that if the Finance Committee is doing its job, then the rest of it, the committee as a whole is gonna feel a little bit better about signing off on the 60-day old forms. At least I know I will,
Right.
so.
So I want to suggest in the interest of time, that we think about this almost like we think about the ends. What's the overarching charge? And then if you have questions or suggestions, I know I've got a running list for the Policy and Governance Committee. Now we have a place to send those, and then for the committee to think about it in light of their work.
Okay.
That'd be useful.
So in terms of just executing changes to this particular charge, do we want to table that till the next meeting? Give you guys more time.
Why not as amended?
Well, I don't know.
Not amended.
Is there
We amended it verbally, now we just put it in writing. I mean, I don't, that's an administrative issue, so I don't
So we can
care.
just do it next time.
Yeah, I mean, what we could,
accepted the draft. So what we did
I don't recall.
to move it forward.
I think that, so we'll have a meeting on May 23rd. So if you have something ready to be voted on, then it wouldn't
Okay.
preclude you from then meeting.
Let's do that. We'll be ready for
Yeah,
that.
we'll do that.
Okay,
We're just wordsmithing at this.
Although I guess along those lines, that there was a question I had, and this, because I think we were intending there to be continuity across all of the subcommittees. I'm looking under the committee membership, and it mentions that the voting members would be a combination of board members and community members. I thought at one point we had talked about only board members were voting members,
Yeah. I think
Yeah,
that's-
so
that's right.
the way-
That's
This is unedited.
the way that,
but I didn't hear an edit
Oh,
discussed along those lines, so.
the way that,
Like that.
Okay.
the way that PGC did it, and I think the way you just did it was that it's a minimum of 2 members. And then residents were really encouraged to attend and participate, but would not be voting members. And there would not be any restriction on anybody's participation.
Okay. They just can come to the meeting.
yeah, invited to participate.
Okay, that's easier.
Mhm. Then they can come and go and you're not missing a member and you don't have to worry about a quorum if they don't show up.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so then we'll table that and table the appointing of you folks formally. We'll just do that on the 23rd. Great, all right, so facilities. So we need a motion.
Can we appoint the members to the committee?
It's not formed yet. It's not formed until we have a charge.
Well, actually, we did actually vote to form the committees last time.
Yeah.
We just didn't approve their charges.
I think that's why we did the draft charge.
Well, that's what I was.
Yeah.
Trying to
Yeah.
remember.
I think we actually officially voted.
I don't know that you actually have a committee if there is no charge.
Yeah, let's
But we
just
had
wait.
draft charges, which allowed
Well,
us
we went through some kind of an action the last meeting.
as a circle.
We need to vote down what we just did anyway.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
we all know
Yeah.
we all know who's gonna be on the committee, so
Right.
it's just a matter
That's
of.
right. We're gonna stick with keeping it clean and we'll do it all on the 23rd, knowing it's,
Well, if we're gonna do it all on the 23rd, then that will be a board meeting.
we have a board meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a
Because we were talking
regular.
about whether we're gonna do it separately or do a.
No, that's
in
the
June.
23rd is our regular board meeting.
regular board meeting.
Yeah.
And that
We
was
have
the
a-
position for the following meetings.
Designated person who's doing the wordsmithing on it. And one of us will check it and then we'll send it in.
Before
That
the
will be
23rd.
before the
23rd
23rd.
will do. Okay.
And we'll do it in like less than a minute.
Yeah.
All right, moving on.
Is there
Uh,
a motion on, there's a motion,
yes,
Yeah,
we
we
have
need to vote
to,
it
so
down.
we need to,
and the motion was to approve or to adopt, I think, right?
okay,
So not. yet.
so. Don't vote yes. All those in favor of approving adopting the finance committee, please say aye. Any opposed?
Yes.
Yes,
Nay.
opposed. Any abstentions? Okay, so we are not adopting the committee today. All right, so the facilities committee, we need a motion to adopt the facilities committee.
So is this to adopt the facilities? I've been writing to adopt the finance committee charge, to adopt the community engagement committee charge.
Yes, to adopt the facilities committee charge, thank you.
Yes, thanks.
Can I get someone to make that motion, please?
I'll move it,
And then a second?
Kevin.
Chester? Okay. All right, do you want to share?
Use that when you can.
Did you guys edit?
No, we didn't. So we had a
Too fancy.
big philosophical discussion. And so the way that the draft document that's in the folder, wherever it resides, looks at, and essentially the verbiage is such that it would be an advisory only committee effectively to the superintendent. So the discussion was, and this is semantics probably to a lot of people, but this is a board committee for the board. This is not a committee of this administration or the superintendent, the way that the verbiage is set up. We did talk about some big picture needs of the facilities group, but we really started looking at how do we take on the responsibility as a board and for facilities work, where right now it's totally within the realm of the administration as a
board subcommittee, we end up in some sort of, I don't know if you want to call it delegating capacity as opposed to advisory capacity to the administration. So we felt to be an effective board subcommittee that we needed to understand where those lines are or should be or could be. As opposed to the way the document's written right now is advisory only. So we didn't,
So you're having an identity.
we
crisis.
have an identity crisis and we have a.
Excellent, and it's what time?
So I think the only consensus we came with is the way that it is written is probably not the direction for a board subcommittee to operate.
Which is sort of part of the conversation before we decided to have this.
Right. For me, almost giving the counterexample helps clarify, right? So the community engagement committee, it's clearly written in policy that stakeholder engagement is a responsibility of the school board. So to have a subcommittee that focuses on that board responsibility to advise the board as a whole, it makes perfect sense. It's really tight. Facilities right now is mostly written in policy to direct me to basically make sure the facilities are what they need to be. And so to have a subcommittee of the board that has some responsibilities for this thing that I'm tasked with makes it complicated. Not impossible, but we'd have to unpack like what other policy changes will we need to make to reflect the new authority that the board holds over facilities in order for a subcommittee of the board to inform the board relative to its responsibilities. So that's that fundamental clarity that I think is needed to know how to move forward with it.
Sarah.
There's facilities committees on other boards. What were there charges that? Like, were they in the same conundrum or were they and they just weren't aware? I'm just curious.
So there was, and so I don't know if I want to, maybe I want to admit to this, maybe I don't, but I looked at 3 other boards. I looked at Regents, I looked at Middlebury, and I looked at CVU. And at the bottom of the draft facility policy is the extracts from those community charges. And most of them are written in that supporting mode, even though if you read the local scandal sheet about Middlebury's facilities committee, they have a whole lot more influence than just advisory. So I'm not sure, and we talked about that too, what other boards in the area we're aware of that are doing a pure policy governance model that and how they're writing up their facilities charges, because a lot of them are modified or modified.
I think one can also look at the advisory role as supporting the monitoring process. That could be written into this charge as basically you would be, providing your recommendation to the full board about the superintendent's progress with whatever that whatever we've charged you with on the facilities front. And so as far as being an advisory body on that, I'm not sure that's an inappropriate role. It's when it's stepping into the initiation of a facilities project by the board rather than by the administration that I think there might be a twist. Like if you said, Middlebury, whether it's true or not, Middlebury, had some role in saying that the board said that, we want to go this direction over here, rather than the administration wanting to go over here. that might be something we would have to redefine in the larger policy structure, but I'm not so sure the advisory portion of it would be problematic if it was assisting the whole board in understanding how we were doing with compliance under the normal policy responsibilities.
When you think about what you would be doing, you're potentially coming up with, like, we might need a bond, and so then you're then you're part of that process. And what's, how are we gonna not know so much like financing it, but like what's its purpose? And we did talk about a lot of like means versus ends in our committee, so whatever we were meeting also, that isn't exist yet, and our
Your breakout group.
yes, our
Working group.
brainstorming group, and just like where, is that where are you getting information from the community about what facilities, types of things it would even support, not necessarily plan, paying for it, but that part of it. And I don't know, we kind of got stuck in the same little piece about it, but decided that's why we kind of were like, what would we do every month? What would be our plan there? And does the charge kind of cover that? And would it fit in with this? And I think there are decisions, like just in general, every time we go to ask the public to vote on something, we only can say, do you want to do this? I was talking to somebody today about it, and they say yes or no. And because they don't have an option, they usually say no. So your role because they don't know, oh, well, then this is gonna happen if that you like, it's like, no, I don't want to close my school. No, I don't want to do whatever, because that's what you're only voting on one thing. But like, is the facilities role to help create those kinds of options that then aren't necessarily being voted on? So that I don't know, it was just a way of thinking about something that we're not able to accomplish normally, but would we be able to if we had that committee?
I think that was part of the struggle was. Right, so a subcommittee of the board exists to serve the board in, upholding its responsibilities in some area. And so the question was, in particular, thinking about as it's written, what is the responsibility of the full board that the subcommittee would be doing the legwork in support of? And that wasn't immediately clear. It was clear what some of the things were that are charged to me that this subcommittee could inform, but less clear about the board.
I think this is some of the challenges of having committees that we recognize early on, but I don't know that those challenges are going to go away with changing the charge. I think it's something that just needs to be regularly talked about, and will kind of different things will emerge, and it's important that that conversation keep happening about where the line is. But I'm not. I think maybe we need to be comfortable with not knowing.
I agree.
Otherwise, we might not do anything. But like to your point, Patrick, I mean, we as a board need to gauge and then rally community support around major initiatives, and so it makes sense for us to have some deeper insight into those initiatives. But how that looks is harder to define.
But I think
It's really good that you're asking these questions.
But I don't think we necessarily talked about. And Patrick said we talked a lot about what the nuts and bolts and the administration's perspective is, but I'm not sure how far we went to talk about what we could do to serve them, total board, if you will. Kathy, do you have any comments?
No, I think you covered it all, Kevin, and I guess I'm, as I said to the the group, I was not comfortable moving forward on this charge until we got a little more feedback from the rest of the board and we had a chance to actually do some wordsmithing with this. So I would recommend you not vote yes also.
Justin,
I agree with Kathy.
So when, if not tonight, when would be the next opportunity to actually?
I think we would definitely have something for you by the May meeting, the 23rd.
I think it seems appropriate that we could come together as a work group. It'd be less than a quorum on a specific topic to do a little bit more work on this and try to bring something for May. Yeah. We have to do that.
Or you're not ready and you meet on June
Right.
13th as a work group.
Yeah.
You know, it's okay.
Yeah, I'm reading down through this and I'm frankly not sure I have much of a problem with the way it's written. I think one thing to keep in mind is that even though Patrick may be bringing most of the information to this group, again, it could be looked at as, supporting the board in the monitoring process. Doesn't necessarily mean we have to instigate policy, proposals. If we're supporting Patrick by, saying, yeah, that sounds like a good plan, or have you considered this or not? I think that's really just part of, working through the monitoring process.
And that was something we did acknowledge, that whether through a subcommittee of the board or through a work group, the value add is that conversation.
Right.
And the exchange and the opportunity for community members to be part of the conversation, if they're interested.
Right.
That's the crux of it. That's what really needs to happen.
I think the only problem with the work group version of that is that there's not necessarily a direct reporting link.
Right.
So. And there are initiatives where the full board is going to need to support you on a bond or whatever, and having the subcommittee, doing a lot of the homework to understand what's involved and helping the board understand that, I think is.
That sounds like we are going to put a pin in this. So that means we have a motion on the table that we're going to vote on in the negative. Yeah. Yep. Okay, so all those in favor with approving the facilities committee charge, please say aye. Any opposed?
No. I am opposed.
Yeah. Any abstentions? Okay, all right. Last but not least, the policy and governance committee. So we need a motion to approve the charge.
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
Okay. Discuss.
So we did not change much of anything from what was written last time, other than, again, we said we would have a minimum of 2 members of the board, and that the residents could attend and participate in the discussions at their discretion, but do not vote on actionable business. The other modification we made from the last version of this was simply to clarify that, we would be providing other assistance with board governance activities, education, and training was the word we added to that particular line, just so that, new folks and existing board members, we would be helping develop tools for them to understand policy governance in more detail. So those are the only things we tweaked in terms of the way the charge was written the last time. I think I went over it with folks.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions or comments for Aaron and Steve? All right. Ready to vote? Okay, so all those in favor of adopting the Policy and Governance Committee charge, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, 2 out of 4, not bad.
500 is pretty good.
Yeah.
It's
So
Hall
now
of Fame numbers, right? there.
Exactly.
Gotta remember the board Hall of Fame. Great, all right, so we will, we need to move to appoint members to the committees, so, can we do this all in one motion?
What?
I'm just trying to think, the committees that have a charge approved exist
Committee.
officially and can be, and members can be appointed, the ones that don't officially exist yet.
Right, I mean those two. though.
Just
Can
those
we
two?
do it
Okay.
together?
Yeah, I think then, and then approve the slate, I think that'd be fine.
Okay, so we need a motion to approve, or to appoint, to the Community Engagement Committee. We've already been appointed, actually.
Except for
this
Barb.
year. You were. So,
Either point Barb.
We just need Barb, right?
okay, to appoint Barb Crandall to the Community Engagement Committee. And to appoint to the newly formed Policy and Governance Committee, Steve, and are you the chair?
Yes, he is.
And who will be the chair, and Aaron.
Their decision.
So, can someone make that motion?
So moved.
And then a second?
I'll second.
Kristen, okay. All right, all those in favor of appointing those good folks to those great committees, please say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Any abstentions? Okay. Great. All right, I don't think we have anybody here from the public, so we're ready to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Go Cassie. Go
Quick study.
Cassie. And a second?
Second.
You ready? All right, all those in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
Aye.
Any abstentions? All right, thanks, everybody. Only 18 minutes past our goal.